Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
Today, Emily and I are going to continue our reading and reflection of the encyclical, The Truth and Meaning of Human Sexuality, Guidelines for Education Within the Family. So last week we did the introduction, and this week we're going to go with part 1, which is called to true love. As the image of God, man is created for love. This truth was fully revealed to us in the New Testament, together with the mystery of the inner life of the Trinity. God is love, 1 John 4:8, and in himself he lives a mystery of personal loving communion. Creating the human race in his own image, God inscribed in the humanity of man and woman the vocation, and thus the capacity and responsibility of love and communion. Love is therefore the fundamental and innate vocation of every human being. The whole meaning of true freedom and self-control, which follows from it, is thus directed towards self-giving in communion and friendship with God and with others.
Human love as self-giving. The person is thus capable of a higher kind of love than concupiscence, which only sees objects as a means to satisfy one's appetites. The person is capable, rather, of friendship and self-giving, with the capacity to recognize and love persons for themselves. Like the love of God, this is a love capable of generosity. One desires the good of the other because he or she is recognized as worthy of being loved. This is a love which generates communion between persons because each considers the good of the other as his or her own good. This is a self-giving made to one who loves us. This is a self-giving made to one who loves us, a self-giving whose inherent goodness is discovered and activated in the communion of persons, and where one learns the value of loving and of being loved. Each person is called to love as friendship and self-giving. Each person is freed from the tendency to selfishness by the love of others. In the first place, by parents or those who take their place, and definitively by God, from whom all true love proceeds, and in whose love alone does man discover to what extent he is loved. Here we find the root of the educative power of Christianity. Humanity is loved by God. This very simple yet profound proclamation is owed to humanity by the Church. In this way, Christ has revealed his true identity to man. Christ, the new Adam, in the very revelation of the mystery of the Father and of his love, fully reveals man to himself and brings to light his most high calling. The love revealed by Christ, which the Apostle Paul celebrates in the first letter to the Corinthians, is certainly a demanding love. But this is precisely the source of its beauty. By the very fact that it is demanding, it builds up the true good of man and allows it to radiate to others. Therefore, it is a love which respects and builds up the person, because love is true when it creates the good of persons and of communities. It creates that good and gives it to others.
Love and human sexuality. Man is called to love and to self-giving in the unity of body and spirit. Femininity and masculinity are complementary gifts, through which human sexuality is an integrated part of the concrete capacity for love which God has inscribed in man and woman. Sexuality is a fundamental component of personality, one of its modes of being, of manifestation, of communicating with others, of feeling, of expressing, and of living human love. This capacity for love as self-giving is thus incarnated in the nuptial meaning of the body, which bears the imprint of the person's masculinity and femininity. The human body, with its sex and its masculinity and femininity, seen in the very mystery of creation, is not only a source of fruitfulness and procreation, as in the whole natural order, but includes right from the beginning the nuptial attribute, that is, the capacity of expressing love, that love precisely in which the man person becomes a gift, and by means of this gift fulfills the very meaning of his being and existence. Every form of love will always bear this masculine and feminine character.
Human sexuality is thus a good, part of that created gift which God saw as being very good when he created the human person in his image and likeness, and male and female he created them. Genesis 1:27. Insofar as it is a way of relating and being open to others, sexuality has love as its intrinsic end. More precisely, love as donation and acceptance, love as giving and receiving. The relationship between a man and a woman is essentially a relationship of love. Sexuality, oriented, elevated, and integrated by love, acquires truly human quality. When such love exists in marriage, self-giving expresses, through the body, the complementarity and totality of the gift. Married love thus becomes a power which enriches persons and makes them grow, and at the same time, it contributes to building up the civilization of love. But when the sense and meaning of gift is lacking in sexuality, a civilization of things and not of persons takes over. A civilization in which persons are used in the same way as things are used. In the context of a civilization of use, woman can become an object for man, children a hindrance to parents.
The gift of God. This great truth and basic fact stands at the center of the Christian conscience of parents and their children. Here we refer to the gift which God has given us in calling us to life, to exist as man or woman in an unrepeatable existence, full of endless possibilities for growing spiritually and morally. Human life is a gift received in order then to be given as a gift. In fact, the gift reveals, so to speak, a particular characteristic of human existence, or rather, of the very essence of the person. When God, Yahweh, says that it is not good that man should be alone, Genesis 2:18, he affirms that alone, man does not completely realize his existence. He realizes it only by existing with someone, and even more deeply and completely by existing for someone. Married love is fulfilled in openness to the other person and in self-giving, taking the form of a total gift that belongs to this state of life. Moreover, the vocation to the consecrated life always finds its meaning in self-giving, sustained by a special grace, the gift of oneself, to God alone with an undivided heart in a remarkable manner, in order to serve him more fully in the church. Therefore, in every condition and state of life, this gift comes to be ever more wondrous by redeeming grace, through which we become partakers of the divine nature, 2 Peter 1:4, and are called to live the supernatural communion of love together with God and with our brothers and sisters. Even in the most delicate situations, Christian parents cannot forget that the gift of God is there, at the very basis of all personal and family history.
As an incarnate spirit, that is, a soul which expresses itself in a body, and a body informed by an immortal spirit, man is called to love in his unified totality. Love includes the human body, and the body is made a sharer in spiritual love. The meaning of sexuality itself is to be understood in the light of Christian revelation. Sexuality characterizes man and woman not only on the physical level, but also on the psychological and spiritual, making its mark on each of their expressions. Such diversity, linked to the complementarity of the two sexes, allows thorough response to the design of God according to the vocation to which each one is called.
Married love. When love is lived out in marriage, it includes and surpasses friendship. Love between a man and woman is achieved when they give themselves totally, each in turn according to their own masculinity and femininity, founding on the marriage covenant and communion of persons where God has willed that human life be conceived, grow, and develop. To this married love and to this love alone belongs sexual giving, realized in a truly human way only if it is an integral part of the love by which a man and woman commit themselves totally to one another until death. The Catechism of the Catholic Church recalls, in marriage, the physical intimacy of the spouses becomes a sign and pledge of spiritual communion. Marriage bonds between baptized persons are sanctified by the sacrament.
Love open to life. The revealing sign of authentic married love is openness to life. In its most profound reality, love is essentially a gift, and conjugal love, while leading the spouses to the reciprocal knowledge, does not end with the couple, because it makes them capable of the greatest possible gift, the gift by which they become cooperators with God for giving life to a new human person. Thus, the couple, while giving themselves to one another, give not just themselves, but also the reality of children, who are a living reflection of their love, a permanent sign of conjugal unity, and a living and inseparable synthesis of their being a father and a mother. From this communion of love and life, spouses draw that human and spiritual richness and that positive atmosphere for offering their children the support of education for love and chastity.
Okay, so that is the end of part 1, the truth, call to true love. Do you have any thoughts initially, Emily, you want to share?
I mean, there were more than a couple, but there were a few lines that stood out to me. But honestly, I think it's just so descriptive and so written so beautifully. I feel like I don't have much to add. But one thing that just was, I thought, so simple yet so beautiful is the section under love and human sexuality. And it talks about just the last line in this little section says, every form of love will always bear this masculine and feminine character. I just think that's so beautiful because just very simply, I mean, we can't distort that, and yeah, I just think it speaks for itself. I think there's a lot packed into that we could, talk through, but I think in essence, it says what it says.
Yeah, I felt very convicted by that section because I often feel like I am not a good model of femininity sometimes in my home. And since this encyclical speaks, I think, a lot to parents, as the primary educators of our kids about our human sexuality and the manifestation of femininity and masculinity in our homes, I know that's something that I feel like I'm always trying to work on or ask the Lord to kind of grow my heart in the capacity to be very different from Joey, actually, like be kind of a stark contrast. And I think that that's, I know saying that now, it kind of sounds like almost like a radical thing of like, oh, wow, because we're so focused on like men and women are the same. We're not. We're equal in dignity, but before God, but we're not the same, and we shouldn't be. Our children should see kind of a stark contrast, which makes me think a little bit sometimes about dress, like how we dress ourselves. And I've been guilty of kind of teasing like the, homeschool skirt wearing moms. But one thing about them is like they do look different from their husbands, and I think there is something too, especially in our children, to visually see like, oh, there is a difference. It's like when you go to the bathroom, there's the girl sign and the boy sign, and they're dressed differently. She's in a dress and he's in pants. And again, I'm not against wearing pants. I wear pants, but it's just like, it's like an obvious, like this is a female and this is a male, and they're different and they have different characteristics. And there's still something in me, which must be like a woundedness that's like a little off put by that. The receptivity that femininity calls for, that we're called in our very nature to be as feminine, it's scary because I have such wounds. I've experienced such woundedness in my own marriage that's something that Joey and he desires to be more of the, that pursuer wanting, and I'm more of, I don't know. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm.
Yeah, no, I know.
Sense.
But
it's like, to be receptive. He wants to love me. It's me that sometimes pushes away. And neither of us are perfect. Like, right. He's not like perfect at those things, but that desire, that masculine desire for me is there. And sometimes I feel like oftentimes in our relationship, the dynamic is that like it's me not being a good receiver. And my
Amen.
children watch that. My children can see that. And that's like, gosh, it's so humbling, And so I know the Lord is working there, but I just feel like, oh, this is like the school of love is at home, and how like it's not even explicitly saying to my children, this is what this means. It's just living it out, Like, does that make sense?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought it up. Honestly, I wasn't, that's a deeper level that hadn't hit me, but it applies to my marriage exactly the same way. And it's something that actually this weekend I ponder it a lot because, but just in essence, I respond very similarly to you, and Josh is very similar to the way you described Joey. And that's one of the biggest struggles for me, and I think within our relationship, within our marriage, is just my reactions, my lack of receptivity. That's really it. And um and I've just been really trying to ponder that recently. I ponder it a lot, but it's in such a way that I'm like, just as you said, I have realized there are wounds there. I don't know exactly which ones, but I can't believe we're talking about this actually, because this is just so um, in the forefront of my day-to-day life recently. But I was just I was just thinking, like, I feel like there's some forgiveness there that needs to be had with in some way in my past. I'm not sure what, but this might be going off topic, and this might be something more we can talk about offline, but um knowing that you and I both have a history with a local priest here at a parish that you were a member of and that I frequented, and he would I don't know if he did this often, but he had this pack of prayers called these forgiveness prayers. Do you Yeah, those have been. So Amy is nodding her head because she knows what I'm referring to, and I realize that this might not make sense to the listeners, but just for our conversation, those have really been coming up, and I feel like that there's a need for me to pray those, and I don't know what that is, but I feel like the wounds that I feel like are connected to this lack of receptivity, which you described so beautifully. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it like that. I feel like those prayers need to be prayed over this. And so I really appreciate you bringing this up. Like I said, I wasn't expecting this. But I think it's more confirmation for me. Like, I need to pursue that. I need to pursue healing those wounds, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, let's share those forgiveness prayers with people.
Okay. Okay.
So if you send, I
Okay.
don't know if I still have them.
Okay.
If
It's
you
okay. I
can
have
send
them.
them to me, then I
Yeah.
will link them to the show notes so people can have them if they're interested.
Oh, I have
Um,
chills.
which again is just like so affirming. It's so affirming. If I want my children to be saints, like I have to start with me before I can, yeah, pass that
And
on. Like,
humbling knowing that
yeah,
I mean, obviously we are all in need of, redemption all the
right,
time. But
right,
it's like just to humbly know, like, yeah, we want them to be saints, but we have to continue. I mean, it's such a journey of our own
right.
in order to try to exemplify even the littlest virtue?
Which is right, yes. I like the way you said that. And I think actually, that's what a beautiful message to send to our children too, Emily, is that like you won't be perfect in this. You won't reach the pinnacle this side of heaven. Like it will be a continual work that the Lord wants to do in you, to be very clear. As far as who's working here, it's the Holy Spirit. It's God who's probing the heart, who wants more healing, who wants to be closer, because he's ultimately the pursuer of our hearts, whether we have a masculine heart or a feminine heart. He wants to heal that and restore that. So
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
that was a
Yeah.
great thing to focus in on. The other, I guess, two other things that kind of popped out to me. One was I thought about spice from the Creighton model
Yes.
and kind of this focus on our call, our vocation, our primary vocation is one to love. And I found such freedom in like really meditating on that when I was single and wanting to be married And, in that season, you can, especially when that desire is strong, you can be tempted to, envy and jealousy and just kind of a state of despair sometimes. And then when I switched that mindset of like, okay, Lord, if I die today and I'm not married, have I not fulfilled my vocation? Absolutely not. Because my vocation as a woman in this world is to love. It's to love and to give myself as a gift to others and to receive others as a gift. That's my vocation. Point blank, day in and day out. Whether it's in the state of marriage, it's single life, it's in religious life, wherever it is, that's the be all end all. And so that was just so consoling to know that that is the root of the vocation. And then the state of life to which I'm living that out. Well, how God made me with my gifts and my talents, like how is that going to be best manifested? So anyway, I just want that to be hopefully encouraging for people, no matter your state of life, like our call is to love as God loves, which we can do every day, no matter who we're surrounded by, even when it's hard.
Yeah, it's so beautiful because I think if I would have realized all of that as a teenager, I don't know if my teenage years would have been different, but I wish I would. I didn't know. I didn't realize that. If I learned it, it didn't stick, and it's just so simply put. And if we really understand that definition of love, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Just in your friendships.
Right.
In friendships, like
Yeah.
how we treat others. And
Yep.
it just talks about we're called to be self-giving in our friendships too.
Yep.
Like these relationships are important, whether they're marriage or not,
And I liked, so SPICE, sorry, I kind of alluded to it. SPICE is an acronym that's used when you're teaching the Creighton model method to couples. And it stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, creative, and communicative and emotional. Right, Emily? Did I get it right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's something that we kind of, when we're chatting with couples is like, the foundation of a healthy, balanced, holistic relationship and marriage of, it's not just about physical intimacy, right? We connect with our spouse primarily in the spiritual, like our soul connection, which is why S, I think, is the first. And then we have the physical, which isn't always, sexual intercourse. It's touching, it's finding, and that's where we focus a little bit more on arousal versus affirming touch, which we've talked about on previous podcasts. And then intellectual, right? Are we having stimulating conversations? Are we connecting over, the reason aspect of our faith or just the current events, things that are happening in time, communicating, and are we emotionally connecting, right? That heart to heart sharing of who we are with our spouse. But that can be transferred to other relationships too. Like you were saying, Emily, like in our friendships, even like I know my deepest friendships are with my friends that I share primarily my faith with.
Yes.
When I have that Catholic relationship first, I feel like it's like the doorway, actually. It's like, okay, we're on the same page with this. Then we can kind of get into like, okay, like, do we have similar interests and like, how do we parent and what's our, political stance or whatever it is we're interested in talking about, like hobbies, etc.
It's such a connection.
Yes. But to know that like, this is a friend that, that will pray for me, that I am in the body of Christ with, right? Like that we share the Eucharist with one another. Like it's just that deep connection, I think is really, really powerful. So yeah, SPICE is kind of also what popped out to me here of like, yes, that union of persons and how beautiful that is in marriage and in other vocations too. And the other thing I was thinking a little bit, I thought two other things. One was a conversation. So when we went to family camp in early August, we went on a hike, and one of the counselors, which are all like college students or just out of college students, one of the guys there we were walking and we were talking about, he asked how Joey and I met. And Joey and I first connected through like theology of the body, love and responsibility, like through this whole area. So we were chatting about that, and he was sharing something, and I ended up telling him about the podcast because I was like, oh, Emily and I talk about this a lot on this podcast that we do. But I feel like we could talk more about it because I thought he made some really good points. And he was talking about how he would love to hear more counseling during like the dating and engagement season of how you can connect physically, and not in a sexual, lustful way, but how you can foster physical intimacy. And Emily, it really like struck a little bit of a chord with me. And while I wouldn't say I regret like anything from Joey and I, like from our dating years, I think that is one thing that I kind of do regret a little of. And I don't know if regret is the right word, but looking back, it's like, oh, I wonder if we could have found a way. I feel like our P wasn't very strong in our dating years. I think everything
Sure.
else was very strong in our dating and engagement time, but finding a way to chastely be affirming and physical with one another.
I know
And I'm
what you're
not talking
saying.
about laying out on a couch making out. I'm saying like, you know what I mean? Like
Cultivating that touch that
yeah.
isn't that's affirming. Like
That it's
cultivating
like when
that.
you see a good friend, like,
Yes.
and I think you're one of my friends that is, but I know so I have like there are a few people that you just love getting a hug from. You know
Yes.
who I'm talking about, Emily? Like
Yes.
you're like, "Oh my gosh, like oh, like you touch me and like I could cry." It's like
Yes.
there's something about that touch that's just like it's healing, And like we need to be touched, right? We know this from science. Babies who aren't touched fail to thrive. Like we need that touch in every season. And I just feel like, yeah, I felt like he just made some really good points about how, chastely you can still connect with the opposite sex and
Like that
how
should
needed
be a
that is.
goal to figure that out, how you do that best. I
Agree.
I never really thought about that and that, but wow, what an area of the relationship. I'll just personally, we're just taught, at least my upbringing was just, sex is bad before marriage. And then once you get married, you have sex. There's
Right.
just nothing more than that, really. And so, in order to really, you would have to be very intentional. Just knowing, I guess I would have had to be very intentional to have a understanding of the difference between affirming and arousal touch, and
Right.
then also to try to implement that during the dating years and to be
Right.
comfortable with it.
Absolutely.
So, in what we're talking about now, as we've been married all these years, like perhaps that could be different now if I would have tried to work on that a lot
Right.
more in the
Well,
engagement.
I think what you just said, though, too, it highlights the need for a lot of self-knowledge and self-awareness. So I think, like with anything, we talk about this with our kids too, is like know thyself. And like, maybe for me, like kind of an all or nothing is like, what's going to work best? Whereas for someone else, it's like, and I could see this actually more with Joey is like, because physical touch is just such a love language. It's just not a primary love language for me too. So I could
Same.
see this being very situational, very, just couple to couple, like how is this going to manifest? But I think it is something to talk about like during that dating engagement time of like, okay, well, you will be physical for the rest of your life. This is such a great season to start to learn that affirming that arousal, but to not see touch as just purely sexual, which is what our culture
Right.
does. And I think
Yes.
I remember someone, a speaker talking about male friendship, and he was talking about how sad the state of male friendship is nowadays, that there should, brotherly love is a real thing. And to have a deep love for your friends is often something we consider more in female relationships, but that needs to be present in masculine relationships as well. It's obviously just going to look different. Um, but yeah, I think about that. Like, how can we, yeah, have that affirming connection and touch with other people because it's just so important. Something just as simple, like I said, like as a powerful hug, it can bring tears to someone, to just be held and touched and you feel seen. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
something else.
No, you're right.
And
Yeah.
probably connects to like, when we talk about marriage preparation, why that's just like, gosh,
Yes.
dating and pre-marriage, like just it's really important. I think we just it's so important without making it sound boring and legalistic. It's like, but it really is. This is someone you're going to spend your whole life with, like having these conversations and working through these things. Obviously God brings about conversion and healing at any stage and season, but yeah, if you're graced with the gift to be aware of these things and go into it trying to find out, trying to just at least just bring the topics up and navigate through those things in between, going out to dinner and playing mini golf or whatever else you're doing during your dating time. It's going to be really worth it because there's going to be a lot of things that come up in marriage that you can't predict. So if you can start to have those conversations earlier, it's going to be really helpful, I think.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else, Emily?
No, that was, yeah. What a great section. I feel
Yeah,
like
it
the whole
was really-
thing's going to be a great section.
I know it's going to be so good. Yeah. Just really beautiful reminders. I really just love that good reminder of, we're called to be a gift that becomes a gift. Where's the line here? The capacity of expressing love. And then there's a semicolon and it says that love precisely in which the man person, for all those like people out there, man is including female here, it's just the human race in general. Okay. The man person becomes a gift. And by means of this gift fulfills the very meaning of being in existence. Like just, yeah. Oh, what a beautiful way to start the day, meditating on that before
Absolutely.
my kids barrel out of their rooms and I forget about the gift.
Exactly. And if anyone wants to reference this specific part that we're reading, it's section 10, the first section under love and human sexuality.
Yeah. Thanks, Emily.
Of course.
All right, guys. Well, we'll continue next week. Thanks so much for listening and we'll see you then. Bye, Emily.
Bye.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.